use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Davis. Oh, my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
And we are back. Yes, First Report Sports is here. I'm Jacob Stuckey, your host. I'm so glad to be here. Guess what? That smell in the air, it is fall season, baby. Getting some colder weather already. We got some football. Football season is back. I'm back. Let's get straight into this episode. I am so ready for week 1 of First Report Sports. Let's get straight into it. Man, we start off by looking at this weekly schedule. It's kind of similar to the way I had it last year when I did this, but we got a little bit of a schedule just to keep me in line, keep my thoughts in line, try not to go off on too many rants. So starting off the podcast, we got the section I'm going to call Big News. Whatever sport it may be this week, it's football. This week, it's also just the podcast being back in general, boys. I'm excited about it. And then we'll head into, the second sport beside football. Obviously, when football season's over, hopefully I'll still have the podcast running. Might be taking a break. We'll see. But we'll have that second major sport here in our second spot. This week it will be baseball. And then after that, we'll have, I think, a solid third spot with Arizona sports. Right now, the big topic is Diamondbacks, but we'll be talking about ASU as well. And then next week, we'll be starting talking about the Cardinals. I don't know how long that Cardinals segment will be, but we'll see, if they're not good, we might not spend much time on them. Diamondbacks are good. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on them. Then we'll head into our fourth spot where we'll start some recaps a little bit. I really do want to put some time on looking on that preseason. It was a big preseason. We got one person we really want to look at, talk about, and then we'll talk about some of the others as well. And we had some big cuts. Cardinals cut Desmond Ridder. Don't want to give too much away there. We'll wait till that segment comes. But, it's a sad day this week. We had a sad day. And, but also like Pat McAfee would look at, we also had people following their dreams and making it. People that didn't get cut had their dreams made today. So it's about perspective. But in that fifth slot, we're going to have Thursday Night Football. It comes every day right before the pod will come out. So the pod before is when we'll predict it, and then the pod after will recap and then go into the NFL season. There will be a sixth segment, but there isn't going to be. That would be NFL predictions, but there is none this week. It starts next week. In the seventh spot, we got college football. We're going to talk about what happened last week, and then we're going to also predict my top 6 games for this upcoming week. With that being said, let's get straight into the news section. Starting off with the biggest news, this podcast, First Report Sports, is back. I'm hoping to release the podcast every Friday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm hoping to not slack off as much. We just looked at that weekly schedule. I'm hoping maybe, like I said, we're adding an NFL schedule when that season comes on. We'll start talking about basketball. Hopefully we'll get some interviews here and there. We'll see how that's going to work. I got to test a couple things out, but, it's just a testing game here in the first couple of weeks. I'm going to try to have this as less cut up as like the other one was and more of an actual podcast. Taking a lot of influence to the Pat McAfee show. Big influence on the way I want this podcast to look. The way the setup looks this year. There's no green screen. I'm going to start having more of my own designs behind me. I'm going to want to add something here as well. And then we got what we got so far. But expect some changes in the near future. Also as well, I'm going to be adding some stuff in the description, and it will give you a time marker of where to skip to get to the information you want to. So I probably already added a disclaimer before this rant that I'm going on now, just to kind of let you know, all right, you can go here and this is where, Arizona talk will be, or this is where my college football predictions will be. This podcast is an experiment, like I said before, and I'm so glad you're here with me on this experiment. Quickly, I want to mention Wednesdays are when this podcast is recorded. So anything to happen Thursday or Friday morning before the podcast is released will not necessarily be covered, but it shouldn't change too much from when I record this on Wednesday nights. Saying that, this Ja'Marr Chase situation here, we have somebody with 2 years left on their contract, really wanting the top receiver money. We just got CeeDee Lamb get paid by Jerry Jones, who we didn't know if that situation was going to happen. But let's be real. CeeDee is a top wide receiver. He's not even like questionable top wide receiver. So he deserved to get his money. Ja'Marr Chase not showing up to practice, and he's not even on his last year of his deal, is really concerning to me. Do I think he misses week 1? No. It's not like he's requesting a trade. He's just wanting money. His coach even came out kind of prematurely, as we're learning here in this segment or this news report, is that he came out prematurely saying he'll be there, right? He's listing it as a day-to-day situation. To me, I'm saying if you're a fantasy owner, don't worry about it, right? If you're a fantasy owner, really what you got to worry about with Ja'Marr Chase is he's the number one receiver. He was before, and he always is going to be, but what I mean by he's the number one receiver is they let Tyler Boyd go to where did Titans, right? Tyler Boyd goes to the Titans. They don't really replace him. He's now going to get even more eyes on him. So that's what I would really worry about. I would less worry that, he's looking for this contract, whatever, this situation is. I wouldn't be that worried about, even if I was a Bengals fan here. You look at it, he wants a contract. If I was a coach, I would be really worried because we're getting close to week 1. You got to get him into the practice. You got to get him to, whatever regime you want and whatever play calls you want. I mean, with Ja'Marr being a veteran, he was so good at LSU. I feel like you can put him in a day before and he's going to be fine for week 1. Might have a slow start when not practicing, so fantasy owners, be careful with Ja'Marr Chase week 1. But I think he'll be on the field, and I don't think we'll have to worry about this for the rest of the season. Now, this is going to change dramatically with the second wide receiver we talk about here, Brandon Ayuk. This has been a situation all preseason. First saying that he wasn't happy. Now we were learning about contracts. They were wanting to franchise tag him. I'm not exactly sure about the rules on that. I think you can do it for 1 to 3 years or something around there, which is a lot less money. What the franchise tag would do is sign him for a lot less money than these wide receivers like CeeDee Lamb are making. The problem I see here, and the problem that are going on right now between the Niners and Ayuk, is not reaching that number. Ayuk, I think, wants to be in that CeeDee Lamb range, and personally, I don't think he's there, right? Don't get me wrong. I think 50% or more, I think it was, of his catches were for touchdowns. The kid went to ASU. I loved him at ASU, and you know what I'm saying? With Jaden Daniels, they had that amazing game against Oregon. He can find seams like nobody else, can get open, but how much is that just because of the 49ers offense? Let's not forget the 49ers have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and CMC that the defenses have to worry about. Kind of letting, somebody like Brandon Ayuk, or what last season they had Jawan Jennings, those type of people to, find open seams because they're not the number one worry. Don't get me wrong, Ayuk's way better than Jawan Jennings, but I don't think Ayuk is a bona fide one receiver in my eyes, right? He doesn't have that big playability where I need to toss it up to somebody. I'm tossing it up to Brandon Ayuk. I think people like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and then Ja'Marr Chase, who we just talked about, are those type of receivers. I don't think Ayuk is. So if I'm the 49ers, I'm not going to pay him. And I mean, that's why he requested a trade. Ayuk wants out. Steelers come in, offer, what the Niners are looking for, are able to pay Ayuk, and Ayuk says no. So where is he going to go? I think he ends up in a 49ers jersey by week 1. If I'm a fantasy owner, I'm avoiding Ayuk at all costs. Doesn't seem like he's happy. He'll play football. He's a good wide receiver, but you just don't know where he is. If he's in a 49ers uniform, he's going to perform, but he's also going to be behind those targets that I listed before. I think the number one location outside of the Niners would be Washington. You got Jaden Daniels. You got that ASU connection. I'm pretty sure they just made a trade. I forgot which team. I think the Eagles, where they got rid of Jahan Dotson, if I'm not mistaken. And they got a third-round pick, which is what the Niners are looking for Brandon Ayuk, a third-round pick. So something might be, happening in that. And again, releasing this podcast on a Wednesday, I'm not sure if something has happened already by Thursday. We're going to obviously have some more news. He's the most talked about person in the league right now. So we're going to figure out something. By Friday morning, could he be locked into a contract? Most likely not, but definitely could maybe be on, the Commanders, or, maybe some more closure of he's going to just have to deal with being franchise tagged. We're going to figure out, I hope, very soon, because this situation just sucks for football. Not having somebody like Brandon Ayuk, even if he's not a bona fide wide receiver one, someone like Brandon Ayuk, so fun to watch on Sundays. We want to see him on the field. And that'll be really it for the big news section this week. I think it's not a huge week for sports. You got, the U.S. Open starting. So if you're a tennis fan, you got a good little, week here of tennis. But, for other sports, you had just kind of anticipation for stuff coming up. You don't have any football this week when it comes to the NFL level. But as we'll talk about later, college football is starting. And that's what I mean by the smell of the air seems like it's fall, because we're coming. Football is here. It's time. But there's not too much to know about yet. So big news will end right here. Alrighty, let's get straight into this baseball section. It's going to be kind of short and sweet this week. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I do follow it. I follow a lot of Diamondbacks baseball, which we're going to get onto in the next segment. But I do want to give a little bit of context of the baseball season before we get into that Diamondback section. We're right now at the end of August. We still got a full month of baseball left of September. And then we go to October, where we really will see good baseball, playoff baseball. A lot of non-baseball fans will tell you, and including kind of people like me on the fringe of liking and not liking baseball. Baseball don't really matter till October. It doesn't really matter till the end of September if you're a good or bad team. All you got to do is make the playoffs, and then anything can happen. The Diamondbacks were a fringe playoff team and then made the World Series last year. So a lot of people that don't necessarily love baseball will tell you that it doesn't really matter till October. So I'm going to kind of go over this pretty quickly, but I did want to bring up these standings here. These are kind of a slim down standings. I'm just kind of showing the teams with a high percentage where they might actually make the playoffs. We start in the American League East up there, where you see the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. This is the two teams out of the East and in the American League that really could make it. It's a tight matchup right now. I'm pretty sure the Orioles are in a series with the Dodgers that did yesterday. The Yankees, I'm not quite sure who they're playing right now, but this will come down to the end of the season. Both 5-5 right now. Both not necessarily struggling, but not as hot as they were early in the season. So out of the East, they're pretty much locks. You see the 99 and the 99.7 there on playoff percentage. So I wouldn't be too scared if I were any of those teams. Really, I guess making it out of that wild card slot, because as you see, the Central is really hefty, close, and those are the wild card situations right there, the Royals and the Twins. The Astros I didn't put on here because they're the only team where their division that it's not really close at all. They're gonna make it. They don't have to go through the wild card. They've won their division already. It doesn't really matter. But when it comes to the Orioles or the Yankees, if you don't win the division, you're automatically in the wild card. So it's that tight race. when it comes to the Twins, they're just kind of fighting to get that wild card spot. They're not going to win the division most likely. I mean, 3.5 is not that far behind. A lot of baseball left. I think it's really down to the Royals and Guardians, though, to get that last kind of slot that's not the wild card, get home field, for that first round. Right now, if I had to guess, I'm going to go with the Royals. The Guardians have been of a little bit of slippery slope. Currently going 4-6 in the last 10, while the Royals are 6-4. You see the Minnesota Twins at 2-8 there. So at an 82 playoff percentage, I think they'll make it. I think everybody on this screen most likely will end up being in the playoffs. It's just kind of where they end up. Are they ending up with a home game and an away game, wild card spot, or winning the division? You head out to the National League and look at the Phillies and the Braves. The Braves have so many injuries. I know if you look at that last 10, you see 5-5 from Phillies and 8-2 from Braves. But with all the injuries from the Braves, no Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris has been injured for a while. He's off and on. Pretty sure Spencer Strider's out for the season as well. 5 games back from the Phillies. I don't think you're catching them. I think really here, your only hope is that you stick that wild card game, and at an 89.4% chance of making the playoffs, you will. I don't think you'll jump the Phillies unless the Phillies do terrible for the rest of the season. I don't think you'll catch them. I think the Phillies have that East Division lead kind of locked up. But as we kind of look at the Milwaukee Brewers, I kind of like the Astros. I'm not sure why I have them here, because no one in their division has a chance of passing them. They got 99% playoff percentage. They're going to be in there. 6-4 in the last 10. They've got that division on lock. Really, where we got to look is kind of like when we looked at the American Central, we got to look at the National League West. The Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres are probably the best teams in baseball right now. Dodgers had the best record in the league. Diamondbacks and Padres are only 3 games off that. The Diamondbacks, I'm going to get into a little bit later, but if you look, they have the most runs scored, but the most runs against. The Diamondbacks are a team you really got to look for into the playoffs. Not as a Diamondbacks fan here, just because with having the highest runs scored, not necessarily the highest difference, but the highest runs scored, you're going to be a team that can score a lot of runs, which is really important in that October slot. NL West can go to anybody. I think the Dodgers will end up winning it. It's going to be pretty hard to overtake them, but both the Padres and the Diamondbacks do have a series with the Dodgers. If they both end up winning that series, I could see the Diamondbacks or the Padres jumping the Dodgers and taking the NL West. Other than that, like I said, not much more to really get into in this baseball season. We really just gotta hope that the end of September is exciting, and when you get into October, then we really got baseball. Baseball's in season in October in my eyes. I only really care about the playoffs, and especially with the Diamondbacks being good, I really care about the playoffs this year. I think baseball will be exciting. I've said Diamondbacks so many times, why not just get straight into it? All right, let's move on to these Diamondbacks. In August, the Diamondbacks have been amazing. We have won every single series, starting from the Pirates, going down to the Guardians. We won that series. We won the Phillies series. We won the Rockies series. We did get swept by the Rays. This really did scare me. We had to travel to Tampa Bay. We got swept by the Rays. Not a good sign, especially when you're so close to the Dodgers. We'll get to that in a second. I think currently, as filming this video, we are 3 games behind the Dodgers. The Padres are 4 games behind the Dodgers. So getting swept by the Rays in the middle of August here was not the greatest thing to see as a Diamondbacks fan. I'm going to get into why I think that happened. I don't want to blame it too much on the injuries, but we'll get more into that in a second. You go on from there, and then you sweep the Marlins. Not a very good team, but hey, that's a sweep now. We got swept. We sweep a team. I think kind of evens it out in a way. Now you look at this Red Sox series, and you go, all right, you lost against a Rays team who is a decent team. You swept the Marlins team who isn't a great team. How will you do against a team that is hot? Sweep them. We sweep the Red Sox. But then coming up on Tuesday night. We lose to the Mets at home. Big loss. How do we respond? We respond with a win. So looking at that so far, the schedule in August, I'm not too mad at what the Diamondbacks have done. Honestly, I should be really happy because it's really, really good. We've only lost one series in August. We've swept a couple of series like the Rockies and the Marlins. Bad teams we need to beat, and guess what? We sweep them. Phillies, 3 out of 4 games, bona fide sweep. You lost the first game, swept them from there. But really, it's about what's next. Here on Thursday, 12 p.m., that game will already have happened by the time this comes out. Hopefully we win that and win the series because guess who is next? Yes, let's bring it up. It's the bad boy Dodgers. Here, as you can see, we have 4 games here at home, luckily, against the Dodgers. We have 2 night games, 2 day games, and we got our best pitchers here. We got Gallen, Kelly, Fott, and Rodriguez. Obviously, Zach Gallen's our ace. Not been performing to the level of I would like to see him. Gallen should be in the Cy Young talks, but he isn't because he's been unperforming. And really, that's not what you want to look for when your team's hoping for number 1 in the division and, going into the playoffs not in the wild card. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm being very critical of the Diamondbacks, and that's because we've already been there. We've been to the World Series last year. As an Arizona fan, I have barely seen anybody win anything. Let's scratch that. I have not seen a single Arizona team win a championship because I'm an ASU fan, not a U of A fan, right? So the Cardinals haven't won anything. The Diamondbacks haven't won anything. The Suns haven't won anything, and the Sun Devils haven't won anything either. So I've seen teams reach the finals, both basketball. The Cardinals made, the Super Bowl back in 2006. I wasn't really, knowing anything back then. We've made some divisional rounds. We've had some great years. The Suns, have made it to the finals in 2021 against the Bucks. And then, the Diamondbacks come last year of Cinderella run and make it to, the World Series in a favorable matchup in my eyes. I mean, this Texas team is not better than any of the teams we faced. In my opinion, the Dodgers were a harder team. Philly in Philly, some of those games we had to win, especially Game 7, was much more impressive than I thought we would have needed. Didn't happen, and it kind of seemed like rinse and repeat with these Arizona teams. Winning when it comes most. Or losing when the time comes down to when you need the championship, we lose. So look at here, this 4 stretch against the Dodgers. You have your best pitchers. You have your lineup, everybody healthy. Kelly's healthy. Rodriguez, you picked him up knowing that this time of the season he comes healthy. He hasn't performed terribly, but we really got to see against this Dodgers team to hopefully, either complete a sweep by this point or hopefully tie or win this series. Rodriguez is going to have to prove it against another good pitcher in Walker Buehler. Not going to say at all, this Dodger team's scary. Look at the pitchers we have to face. Kershaw, Gavin Stone, Flaherty, and Buehler. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination. They have Shohei Ohtani, and there's something I'm going to show in a second as well. The Diamondbacks are a little bit injured. Not going to be helping us at all. If we win 2 to 3 of these games, that's all I want. A sweep would be amazing. We can't. If you're a Diamondbacks team 3 games behind, you can't get swept in a 4-game series, and you can't lose it 3-1. It's a big series. San Francisco's also going to be big. In division rivals. Not as big as this Dodgers series with how close we are. As a Diamondbacks fan right now, looking at each of these series, we have to at least win the series. Dodgers, we got to at least go 3-1. San Francisco, you got to at least go 2-1. With Padres being 1 game behind you, Dodgers being 3 games ahead of you, every single series and game matters. So getting these sweeps, amazing. That one reason that Mets game hurt so bad, even if we win on Thursday, which you guys will know or not, losing that first game means you don't get the sweep. Without that sweep, you don't gain any advantage against the Dodgers. The Dodgers also lost on Tuesday. So with us losing, that just evens it out. Padres, If they were to be winning, which they've lost a couple games recently as well, they would have gained on us. So losing one game is going to hurt the Diamondbacks. We're so close coming up to this September here. You can't afford to lose any game. And what makes that even harder? Here, right here. Gabby, Cattell, and Christian Walker all injured. All of them are reported to come back pretty soon. Cattell could even be in this Dodgers series. What I really think he's going to, I think ESPN predicted him to be back the 29th, which would be that Thursday game. I don't expect to see him at all. Will we see him Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday? Probably. I would say, especially if it's not going our way, I think you got to bring in Cattell. You don't want to bring him in too early. I mean, an ankle injury is, big. You can't. I think he'll DH if anything. I think on defense, Guillermo. Oh my, I'm 100%. That's how you say his name. But the second baseman. I'm pretty sure if you're an Arizona fan, Diamondbacks fan, you saw that play on defense. So I'm not mad at him playing defense at all. You got Kevin Newman when we need him. Maybe just bring Marte back for a DH in this Dodgers series. Get him swinging. Don't put too much pressure on this ankle. Don't put him in fielding. We don't, we're pretty much going to make the playoffs. That's almost set. Yes, we're fighting for first place. Yes, we want to beat the Dodgers, but you don't want to put Marte back in the infield and get him injured and not have him in the playoffs, where we saw when you get hot, what the Diamondbacks did last year. If we were not to have people like Marte, Gabriel Moreno, and Christian Walker, we would not have made the World Series. So there's no reason to bring Walker or Moreno back at all during the season. It's not like we're at Dodger Stadium, so Walker's not going to turn into the next Willie Mays, right? Don't ask me how he does that at all. Gabby is such a good contact hitter, such a good just defensive catcher as well. I think he's so underrated. I mean, barely anybody ever steals on him. His frame work is incredible. He makes our pitchers better, which I think is what we're struggling with right now. Our rookie catcher, Castillo, don't get me wrong, that kid is an amazing bat. He probably has a better bat than Gabby, in my opinion. But he's not as good as framing. People steal on him more often. So that is what you're missing. But right now, with how well our bats are performing, even when we let up 5 runs, we're still winning that game. You don't need to worry about Moreno and Walker at this moment when your bats are still performing. Cattell's the only one, since he's your best player, that maybe you want to get him at DH just to give you that extra edge hitting than the Dodgers. And like I just mentioned, the Diamondbacks hitting is incredible. We have the most runs by any other team. Yet, the caveat to that is our pitching is one of the worst in the league. We have one of the highest runs against also. So, looking at this Diamondbacks team, we're going to score. Our pitching's questionable. But if we go back to the other page where you saw Gallen, Kelly, Fott, and Rodriguez, those are some good pitchers. Nelson's unproven, so we really don't know, but we know Gallen, Kelly, Fott, and Rodriguez are all good pitchers. Are they going to show up in the playoffs? Montgomery's in the rotation. He's just not starting. He's going to come off the bullpen. Hopefully you get him maybe back to a starting position, and maybe he does better when, postseason starts, and maybe he kicks to a second year. But with these players, it's not like you have unproven players. You just have players that aren't, pitchers that aren't necessarily performing at the level you would want. But, we're still winning games. So right now, the way to really end this is looking at the Diamondbacks. We're winning games one way or the other. It's an incredible season. I'm really looking forward to October because I think the Diamondbacks will make some noise because, like I said earlier, we're the hottest team in baseball. We score the most runs. I'm happy to be a Diamondbacks fan. Moving on, we're here. Arizona State football. If you look around, Arizona State, Jake Plummer, Rose Bowl, Arizona State. This is the team that I've read by, I've died by every single result, and I will for the rest of my life. It will eventually be where I go to college. This team, something when I was young, connected to. I can't wait for this season. We started off at home against Wyoming. Wyoming is no joke, right? They're not the top echelon of teams. They're never going to be. Shout out Coach Karcher from played in Wyoming. But this team is a really good test. A couple years ago, I watched my Sun Devils lose to Eastern Michigan at home. One of the most devastating things I've ever watched. Eastern Michigan, not Michigan State, not Michigan, Eastern Michigan. Looking at this team, I have some of these impact players right here listed for us. I think this team can be a lot better this year. We got a lot of talent at seniors, a lot of juniors, and we're starting a freshman QB. How will this go? Only time will tell. Leading into this game Saturday night, we're now a Big 12 team. It's going to be very weird to see on the field. Hoping to be there, not 100% sure. But I want to quickly break down this roster. We look here and we see Sam Leavitt, starting QB, listed as the starter. With his backup, Jeff Sims, transfer from Nebraska. We knew he was very indecisive. He fumbled the ball quite a bit. And so the Sun Devils starting Sam Leavitt, to me, says that you don't trust Jeff Sims, which is weird because he's a senior and Leavitt's a freshman. That honestly boosts my confidence for Leavitt so much. If a freshman can beat out a transfer from Nebraska who has played in competition like no other, that means this trust in this kid must be the trust of the coach on this kid must be amazing. I'm very excited to see him play. We got a running game that I'm very excited for too, which we're about to get into. But what I'm hoping to see throughout this season is, do we use Jeff Sims? Let's say in a goal line situation, we used to do Wildcat, or as Sun Devils fans would say, Sparky formation, and you would have Cam Scadaboo hike the ball, right? Do you now put Sims in that position and then do read options with Scadaboo? What does that look like? When you get to the goal line, Sims is a little bit bigger of a quarterback. We know he can run. Yes, he had a case of the fumbles in Nebraska. But, coming off the bench, do we see more of Sims? Do we see a dual quarterback offense, or do we go into the season expecting Leavitt just to have control of the whole offense? I'm not necessarily afraid of that either. I just feel like you get Jeff Sims coming out of the transfer portal from Nebraska. I hope we actually use him. He's a great scrambler. He's a bigger dude. Hopefully, maybe we use him in those goal line scenarios instead of having to go to a Wildcat. If you put Sims there, he's still a quarterback, so he has that throwing ability. Don't get me wrong, Scadaboo had a passing touchdown, but I like the idea of Sims having the ability to, run, hand off to Scadaboo, and throw. And it's something the defense would not have seen throughout the game. So in the goal line scenarios, you bring in Sims. He's a senior. He's experienced. And you can now have so much more open in the offense. But like I said, if Sam Leavitt, the freshman, has the keys to our offense, I'm not too scared as well. Now leading into our running backs, you got Scadaboo. He's the starter. He's Arizona State's offense. This kid will run the ball 15 plus times a game. Will he take us to the promised land? That's soon to be told. I'm not 100% sold on this O-line yet. We're going to see moving into the Big 12, can they block? It's just so stressful watching a team like ASU where their O-line, they have some good players who transferred out and players who transferred in. You got freshmen, but then you don't know if they perform as a unit. You got names. ASU has always had names. Brandon Ayuk, Jaden Daniels, but do they play together and do they reach expectations? I like this coach a lot more than I love Kenny Dillingham. At the time I liked Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards got fired on the field in that Eastern Michigan game. Kenny Dillingham has showed so much hope to this Arizona State team. I feel he might be able to have us playing as a unit. Talking about a unit, I have 5 wide receivers listed here. We have Xavier Guillory We have Malik McCain, a transfer from Penn State. Didn't get much playing time there, but playing at Penn State, being in those atmospheres, he knows ball. Senior, 6'4", bigger dude. I can't wait to see him play. I feel like he'll be the number one target this year. I have high hopes for this kid. I really, really think he's going to be a vital piece to our passing game. Levitt's, I'm probably going to be number one target this year. Would not surprise if we see 5+ receptions for him a game. Troy Amir, big guy. They have him listed as a wide receiver. I think he's more of a tight end. Going to just be another big target, kind of leaking out for, Sam Levitt. Could be a goal line target for either Levitt or Sims, whoever plays in that situation. I'm pretty pumped to see him. You have Stovall, a little speedier playmaker. We won't see him as much, but I will still expect a lot of output from him. And then you got the sophomore. I put Jordan Tyson in here. I don't know how much he's going to be used this year, but I have high hopes in the next couple of years if he doesn't transfer out. Transfer portal, you can't trust any of these people to be here next year that are juniors or below. I'm hoping Jordan Tyson will be a future number one receiver for ASU who blossoms into this great speedster, very elusive. We'll see how he performs at 6'1", 195. Great prospect, but he is a sophomore, so I don't know how much we'll see him this year. Moving on to the defense, you got this transfer Jeff Clark, D lineman. 285, I'm guessing, is going to play inside. You got Prince Dobra, came in last year. Didn't perform as much as I wanted. I thought from Texas, this guy's going to play every snap, and I don't even remember seeing him in the first snap of the game, of our first game against Southern Utah. So I'm hoping he has a bigger performance on the edge this year than he did last year. I know he's got the talent. Coming out of high school, he had the talent, hence why he went to Texas. Now he's here. I hope that we can see some of it. He's a senior now, a year in the program. Let's see if he knows the defense. I'm hoping for a big year from him. We move to our DBs. We got Xavier Alford, Shamari Simmons, Lawrence Welsh, and Kamari Wilson. A lot of these guys are transfers. Shamari's the only returning player, if I'm not mistaken. These guys are a couple juniors. Shamari's a senior, and Kamari Wilson is ASU's. I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Kamari Wilson will play quite a bit this year, and I'm very excited to see him transfer from Florida. Again, ASU is one of these programs where pieces are in and out. I'm not 100% familiar with all these people, so we'll see this list kind of throughout the season change a lot. Will Kamari Wilson still be here as a sophomore DB transfer from Florida? Will he be our main DB, or will it be somebody else? That we'll figure out throughout the season. We'll come back after this Cowboys game against these Wyoming Cowboys, and we'll see if these people really did perform. We'll see if Jeff Sims gets in the game. We'll see who really on our defense stands out, because right now these are, for me, just a lot of guesses. I play college football 25. I recognize a lot of these names. A lot of the people who did start from there, I did take quite a bit from that. And then quite a bit of people of names that I just do know, right? I've seen some of these, the bottom two DBs. I didn't hear about it from the transfer portal. So I do think they will play. I think Welch and Wilson play. I'm just not 100% sure how impactful they are. We'll figure that out towards the middle of the season, more after week one. Week one, you don't see really what your offense is going to be. I think by week 4, this list will be who we see for the rest of the season. That will end the Arizona sports section. Now we're here, NFL preseason. Big news. There's one player on everybody's mind. That is Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick. We saw him perform in a Chicago Bears uniform. I watch a lot of Pat McAfee. Bill Belichick shows up quite a bit on that show, I'm pretty sure every Monday. And one thing Bill says is you cannot tell a player you can't tell how a player is going to be just by preseason. You see very basic coverages. Teams aren't really going to show their full defenses. And you're going to see a lot of second, third team type of dudes who aren't the starters. But this guy looked like he's the real deal. I'm going to overreact. I think Caleb Williams will be a top 5 QB by the end of this year. I see someone like Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Rodgers, I think, performs. Josh Allen, I think, has a down year. Herbert, they're going to run the ball a lot. Hurts, they're going to run the ball a lot. So for me, I see right now just top of the head, don't have all of them listed. I'm going to leave somebody out. Forgive me. But I see CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams, and then in that 5 spot, because I'm so high on him, I love the guy. I think he's an amazing quarterback. I'm going to put Aaron Rodgers at that 5 spot. I know already off the top of my head, I'm leaving out people like Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Herbert, and there's a couple others like Kyler I'm not too high on this year coming off an injury. We'll see. Brock Purdy, who knows? Matthew Stafford, who knows? And then we got a lot of unpredictable outside of there. There's definitely a quarterback I'm forgetting. I'm going to get a lot of that in the comments, I understand. But I really see that Caleb Williams in that 5 to 8 range is not unreasonable. Obviously, he could have had an amazing preseason and then starts the regular season and sucks. But I don't see that because listen here, this is one of the best spots a first-round pick has ever been put into. Not only was this the best spot a first-round pick has been into, this wasn't even the Bears pick. This was the Panthers pick traded to the Bears last season. Caleb Williams should have went to the Panthers, but they got Bryce Young. Anyways, beside the point, Caleb Williams' offense is looking incredible. The pieces he has in DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then Rome Odunze is incredible offense. Cannot be overlooked that he's in an incredible position. I'm not 100% about the O-line, but I'm really high on Caleb Williams. Might be too high, but I think he ends up in that top 5 to 8 quarterbacks this year. Leading on, other than the preseason, unfortunately, this week we had to deal with, the cuts. The Cardinals released Desmond Ridder. I'm a little surprised we chose, Tune over Ridder. Maybe not too much surprised Tune over Ridder as much as why don't keep Ridder on the roster as a third QB. The fact that we're running with only 2 is a little scary knowing Murray's health. I'm very surprised with knowing Murray's history with getting injured that we don't have Tune and Ridder so that when it comes to the regular season, Ridder's got the experience from Atlanta, had a bad play caller. I would have really liked to see Ridder and Tune kind of battle it out in the regular season if Murray were to get injured. But, seeing him go, I'm not too, it's not the end of the world for the Cardinals, especially if Murray can stay healthy. Somebody like now, Kadarius Toney. You saw him in the Super Bowl drop more balls than anybody I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. Do we overreact? Well, the Chiefs did, and they released him. I haven't seen him in preseason. I didn't see him play, unfortunately. I don't know how he looked or more of the reasons of why he got released. All I know is Kadarius Toney was a good football player at Florida. It sucks to see him cut. I wouldn't be surprised by the time this podcast gets uploaded on Friday that he's already been signed by an NFL team. Would not surprise me at all. Other than that, my heart's out to all those people that have been cut. My journey of football ended at high school. So to hear these people that went through college, that thought they were going to make an NFL roster, who were maybe drafted this year, late in the rounds or last year, and now getting cut, that was their dream to be a football player. And it looks that their time has ended. So that's sad to see. But also, like the Pat McAfee show a lot has said, it's also a day where people's dreams were made. Not only were people cut, but people stayed on the team. So some of those lower roster players also just made a team today. So it's a perspective thing. You can either look at it as a sad day if people get cut, or a good day where people's dreams became true, making an NFL roster this week. Other than that, I think it's time to stop looking at the past and the preseason and looking into the future. That's right. Thursday night football starts next week, a day before this podcast is released. By the time I make the next one, I still won't know the results. So reviewing it's going to be a little bit weird. I might have to put it in a post edit. We'll see how we review it because this is filmed on a Wednesday night. So you guys will know the results by the time this podcast comes out next week. By the next week's podcast, I will not recording it. We'll see how I can play around with that. Maybe I can figure out a way to film a little bit right before I release the podcast on Friday. That will be figured out next week. But let's focus on Ravens Chiefs. My money would go to the Ravens in this situation. I'm going to announce it straight away. My pick is the Ravens. Plus 130. If you're the smarter decision in my eyes would take the +3 spread. Probably take an alternate spread and go 3.5. I think if the Chiefs pull it out, it'll be more because they're at home in Arrowhead. I think very late. Don't forget that this game in the AFC Championship was very close till very late. So if the Chiefs do pull this out, I don't see them covering a full 3.5. They might cover the 3 or push the 3, but I don't see a full 3.5. I think it's by a late .2, maybe field goal at the end, right? But I like the Ravens a lot more this year. They lost some pieces on the defense. The O-line's iffy, but you cannot put past getting Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in the league, overshadowed by a bad Tennessee Titans team. You thought you had to focus on Lamar Jackson running. Their rushing offense was amazing with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Imagine what that rushing attack's going to be with Derrick Henry. Now looking at the rest of their offense, you look at Lamar, he's a great quarterback. You have Derrick Henry. Now at receiver, you have Zay Flowers. Other than that, no one that's necessarily proven. I picked up Zay Flowers in fantasy because I know that's going to be their number one target. We'll see how he does with being the defense's number one focus. But is he? Just wait. Don't forget they have this dual tight end in Mark Andrews, who's going to be coming off an injury. We'll see how well he plays this week. But you also have the well-proven Isaiah Likely. I'm very high on him. I think he's a very good vertical threat tight end. He's going to catch a lot of goal line balls, and I think the Ravens are going to have no problem against this, let me get into, depleted Chiefs defense. Losing a cornerback in L'Jarius Sneed. I know there's someone else I'm missing that they also lost. The Chiefs, coming off a Super Bowl, they're the Chiefs. But don't forget, the Chiefs also lost the Week 1 against the Lions, the same kind of caliber as the Baltimore Ravens, and they were home as well. The Chiefs, I'm not surprised if they lose this game starting Week 1. They start slow, and don't get me wrong, I could see the Ravens winning something like crazy, like 35-14. We all overreact, and the Chiefs come and win the Super Bowl later in the year. I could see that as well. But here's the thing that gets tricky. Yes, my pick is Baltimore Ravens. I would take the money line if it was me myself. But if you want to play it a little bit safer, I would do an alternate spread about +3.5. Give the Ravens a chance to maybe lose by a field goal, but you can still hit the bet. If I were the age to bet, I would definitely go money line. That would be my pick. I'm definitely high on the Ravens, like I said. Their defense still has Roquan Smith. They lost a couple pieces as well. But 100%, I think early in the season, the Chiefs seem to struggle. I think the Ravens, with that new offense, is going to be incredible. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. Don't get me wrong, they improved on offense with Xavier Worthy. That's going to be scary. But with being a rookie and Xavier Worthy, there's no rookie on the Ravens that I'm worried about performing. You have Derrick Henry that you're worried about performing. Experienced guy, he's going to fit in that offense well. Chiefs, you got Patty, Travis, and Rashid Rice with the, tossed in Xavier Worthy. Will he perform Week 1? He's going to perform by the end of the season. Don't get me wrong. He's amazing out of Texas, an amazing receiver. I just don't see the production in week 1. I think it's going to be a little higher scoring than the AFC Championship game. I can see a game where both teams score 20 plus points here. So I'm going to take the over as well at 46.5. I think these defenses are a little bit depleted. They have some very good talent. Don't get me wrong. You got Chris Jones, an amazing D tackle on the Chiefs, while having Roquan Smith on the Ravens. Very good pieces, but very depleted secondaries. Actually, the Ravens have a pretty decent secondary. The Chiefs don't. Again, just another way I see the Ravens just as not necessarily a better team, because you can't say anybody has a better team than a team that has Patrick Mahomes, the best player in football. But I think all around the Ravens might be an all-around better team. I like them heading into week 1 here. Other than that, no more NFL football to talk about. My one prediction is the Chiefs win. And final score prediction, I'm going to go... Let's go 34-27 Ravens. I'm locking in a Ravens by at least a touchdown victory here. Heading in to my favorite sport out of all, college football. We had week 0 last week. What an amazing week 0 it was. Loved the college game day out in Ireland. Love to learn about a little bit more of their culture. Pat McAfee may have got hammered on a Friday, but looked amazing on college game day Saturday morning. Never doubt him. He doesn't deserve the hate he gets. Love the man. Very huge inspiration for me. But guess what? He picked Florida State to win that game. Desmond Howard picked Florida State to win that game. Kirk Herbstreit picked Florida State to win that game. The mind of all minds, Nick Saban picked Florida State to win. Who picked Georgia Tech? That's right, the WWE superstar Sheamus, the one who went with his heart instead of his head. And guess what? This is college football that we're talking about. Upsets are not unpredictable. They're predictable, because the unpredictable is predictable in college football. Don't let that twist your head. The underdogs will win every single week. Not every underdog will win, but there will be an upset every single week, because this is college football, and that's why we love it. Going into this, I was tired of Florida State's whiny, we should have made the playoffs. Long talk. If you want to argue with me, I'll argue with the college football playoffs had requirements to make it. One of those was players healthy. Jordan Travis wasn't healthy. You got 5 for a reason. Got destroyed by the Georgia Bulldogs. You deserved it. Now you lose to a last-second field goal by the Georgia Tech. I don't even remember what their mascot is. I think it's like a bee hornet type of thing. You lost last second. You're not out of it, though, 100%. As much as I kind of have a little hatred for Florida State, you're not out of it. You're in top. Still might win the ACC. It's a 12-team man playoff this year. Not all hope's lost, right? Tough way to lose. Kind of happy you lost, but tough way to lose. Anyways, that's it for week 0. Again, we got to stop looking at the past and let's look at the future. Every single week, I'm going to be picking my 5 favorite games plus the game of the week. So let's pull them up here. You see the game of the week there at the bottom, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I'm pretty sure that's where college game day is this week. Then at the top, I also put one of my favorite games to see. I'm going to have Florida State and Boston College. It's on a Monday night on ESPN, 4:30. ESPN. I have this game up as one of my top games because I want to see how Florida State bounces back. Boston College isn't a powerhouse in the ACC, so I expect Florida State to win by more than 1 score. Knowing what they need to improve on, now they're going to be home, not all the way out in Ireland. I want to really see if DJ Ungalungale, however you say his name, I want to see if he's going to be any better than what he performed. I think we had that stat where his average air time for his passes were negative 0.2 yards. Let's see if he's going to be just this phony that he was at Clemson, that he came to Oregon State and, didn't have any eyes on. Now he's got eyes on him in Florida State. Can he perform against this Boston College team on a Monday night? Now we move to an early game on Saturday, 9 a.m., Penn State, West Virginia. You might be thinking, why are you putting a number 8 team versus an unranked team? Because Pat McAfee has convinced me that Penn State does not walk into West Virginia and come out victorious. Pat McAfee has convinced me that Penn State gets an early loss after they were one of those locks for the playoffs. Penn State ends every year with 2 to 3 losses, which would fit them perfect into that 10, 11, or 12 slot. I would not be surprised if they go to West Virginia. Pat McAfee sold me that no one comes out of there alive. This could be all a lie. Honestly, going to put my, emotions aside. Penn State probably walks in there, wins by 30 points. But I think the stats actually backed Pat McAfee here. When people go into top 10 teams, go into West Virginia, they don't come out the victors. And if they do, they don't cover. So I don't have the lines here on the screen, but I would like to say I don't think whatever the line is, I don't think Penn State covers it. Maybe West Virginia doesn't win here. Honestly, if I'm going to go my true prediction, I'm probably going to go with Penn State. We'll go finally, after talking about every game, we'll go through my predictions. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's always an upset. West Virginia is on my underdog. I'm picking them as my underdog. I think they'll be the team that definitely covers this week. Then you got a rivalry game in week 1. This is what I love about conference realignment. This is what I love about the future of college football. We get Miami, Florida. Miami's 19, Florida's unranked, but don't get me wrong, Florida is a ranked caliber school this year. They got some great players. Elijah Badger, a former Sun Devil, our number 1 receiver, transferred to Florida. They got some great pieces there. I would not be surprised if Florida at home in the swamp. Don't get me wrong. If this was in Miami, I would go with the better team, who is Miami. But in the swamp, I think Florida, again, I don't know if that's an upset. So Florida is going up the down dogs, but it's a 2.5 point difference here. I would, maybe if you're playing it safe again, I would do an alternate spread here. Playing it safe, go 3.5. Georgia +3, or Florida +3.5 at home. If they were to lose, I don't think it would be by much. In that swamp, I think Florida wins, and I think Florida actually wins heavily here. Give me Florida by 1 or more scores. Georgia Clemson, honestly, in my eyes, the only reason Georgia Clemson is here is because Clemson's ranked number 14. I have the Dogs by 14 plus. They are going to cover their spread. The current spread on the Georgia Bulldogs game is 13.5, and I have them covering. Clemson did not use the transfer portal. Don't get me wrong, Dabo Swinney's a great coach. He's going to have, like a motivator in college football 25. He's going to have that team ready for this game. But in Georgia, they're going to get absolutely stomped. I wouldn't be surprised at halftime we're looking at this game and you're like, Jacob, what are you talking about? Clemson's up by 3 points by the end of that fourth quarter. Georgia will be up by 14 plus. Mark my words. And then we head to Sunday night football, not NFL. You got Sunday night college football with the week without NFL. You got LSU and USC. Last year we had LSU, Florida State, and what a game that was. Absolute bangers on Sunday night. Expect this game to be close. Expect in Death Valley LSU to prevail just because of that Death Valley home field advantage. Right now I'm going all home teams. I understand that's not always how it goes. But actually, scratch that. Not in Death Valley. We're playing this in it's a kickoff, Vegas kickoff. So neutral site, actually closer to SC here. LSU lost last Sunday. We'll see. Again, I'm coming back with my predictions at the very end here. It's going to be a very close game. All I can tell you, this is probably, in my eyes, the game. This is why it's at the bottom of my 5. 6 is always going to be the game of the week. But my game of the week is LSU USC Sunday night football, college football on ABC, 4:30 prime time. What a game this is going to be. Trust me, game of the week right there. Then we got the true game of the week. We got Notre Dame and Texas A&M. In my eyes, it's going to be a great game. Don't get me wrong. in College Station is all you got to know. Johnny Football built this stadium, and now they are one of the loudest stadiums in the country. Notre Dame has always been unproven. Texas A&M at home, that could be the difference. Who knows? It's week 1, very unpredictable. Game of the week, we'll see. I'm leaning both ways just because I think Notre Dame's the better football team. Texas A&M always recruits very well, so who knows if this is their breakout season. College Station at home, it's going to be a tough game for Notre Dame. Now, after talking about each game, why I have them here, let's go quickly back through them to end the podcast off. Starting off, Boston College and Florida State. My final prediction is the bounce back game. I don't think Boston College is a good enough team to beat Florida State at home, who's hungry, who needs a victory after being embarrassed in Ireland. I'm going Florida State, and now that I have them pulled up, I'm going Florida State to cover 16.5. It's a lot of points after seeing them perform last week. 16.5 is a lot. That's 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But at home, I could see it happening very well on Monday. I think it's, honestly, if it's close by second half, start a third half, I might look stupid, but I'm going to go a cover by Florida State here. They need this bounce back win at home, covering on Monday Night Football here. We move on to West Virginia, Penn State. Pat McAfee sold me on West Virginia. They're -8 right now, Penn State. I'm going to go Penn State wins. Final prediction, Penn State wins. They go to West Virginia and they win, but I don't think it's going to be by a blowout. They're -8 right now. I think West Virginia covers, and I think they barely cover. I think they go into Morgantown, and Morgantown is a tough place to play week 1. Pat McAfee's talking a bunch of stuff. Maybe they don't win. I think it's a close game, though. I think Penn State wins but does not cover. Then you got Florida and Miami. Right now, Miami a 2.5 favorite. I don't like that. In the swamp, I'm taking the Florida Gators, and I'm taking money line. I'm not saying they're going to cover. I would take money line here, Georgia or Florida Gators outright. Then you got Georgia Clemson. I talked about earlier. I could be stupid. I'm not taking this game to be close. I think close through half. So I don't know necessarily the lines at half, but if you're going to take a line for Clemson's favor, take it at half. I think this game's very close because Georgia starts off slow. We've seen it last year where they were very close in games. You're like, oh, there's no way they're going to cover their 21.5 points down by 3 at half, and then they end up covering by 22. Right? Georgia's going to cover this 13.5. They're going to win by 2 touchdowns. When that breakaway is, I'm not confident that it's going to be in the first half. So if you want to take a first half money line Clemson, would not mistake you for that. But I'm taking the Georgia Bulldogs 13.5 cover. Then heading to USC LSU, I'm taking right now, if I had to give you a lock to bet, over 64.5 is a lot of points. USC didn't have a defense last year. Don't think they're going to have a defense this year. LSU is currently favored by 4. I don't like 4, such an uneven number. If I'm going to say something, I'm going to take LSU, alternate spread 2.5. They're not going to cover 4, so I'm going to go LSU to win. I just don't think they're going to cover 4, and honestly, I would take the under even with the terrible defenses. 64.5 is a lot for a week 1 matchup. I'm going to go under 64, LSU by 2 to 3. I just think LSU is a better team. The SC just without Caleb Williams, I don't know if their offense will perform. I think it's going to be a very good game, though. Like I said earlier, I'm going to go LSU, but not to cover the 4, maybe a 2.5 range. Then you got the college game day of the week. Who's going to win, the Aggies at home or the Fighting Irish? Always going to be in there. Notre Dame's always going to be there. Always going to be a team to look at. I could be very stupid because I love underdogs, and I'm going with an underdog. In College Station, game of the week, give me the upset. Give me upset week 1, upset week already. College Station, Texas A&M beats Notre Dame. Can't believe it. What a blast it was filming this first podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been First Report Sports with Jacob Stuckey. I'm so excited for the rest of the season. I'm shaking so much thinking about fall and college damn football. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day and go love somebody.